Hello, Gerta. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Bala. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Gerta is a negotiations specialist and an immigrant from Albania, and she is based out of San Francisco. So we'll dive into all of that and listen to her story and how she got to where she is right now. So, Gerta, tell me more about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of YourNegotiations.com. I help people become expert negotiators in their professional lives. Maybe I'll expand to their personal lives at some point. And I help people get what they want in their professional lives. I've helped hundreds of job seekers, founders, techies maximize value for the things they care about. So things like negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts, such as with vendors, customers, partners, navigating equity splits amongst founders, increasing job offers and salaries by tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars, uh, along those lines.
Okay, fantastic. So I was telling the viewers how you are an immigrant from Albania, right? And this is a time when Albanian immigrants or Balkan immigrants are doing great. We all saw the example of Mira Murati, who almost became the CEO, but she is leading a fantastic organization. So tell me more about your days growing up. How was that like?
Yeah, Albania is such a fascinating country, especially when I see it from the eyes of Americans. As I was growing up in the 90s in Albania, Albania was just coming out of communism. It was opening up to the rest of the world, including our neighbors. So the infusion of the art and media coming in from Italy and the UK and France and Germany and all the nearby countries. Uh, it was fascinating how we embraced all the arts and knowledge from our neighboring countries. We also had a civil war in 1997 due to Ponzi schemes that collapsed. And Kosovo, our sister country, went through a war as well. And so it's been such a unique childhood, honestly.
Yeah, so I want to take you back to the time when you decided to move to the US. What was the root cause, and why did you choose US over other countries? Was there a thought process behind that?
Yeah, I actually it, because of all the turmoil in Albania growing up, the families that can afford to send their kids in other countries to study, they do so because our educational system wasn't doing great because of all the turmoil. We have amazing teachers and professors, but just sort of the instability economically and politically and socially is not ripe for a good education system. So it was more of a matter of what country I was going to study abroad and less whether I was going to or not. The way I ended up choosing the US is, while I was in high school, I learned about all the amazing schools in the US and the educational system. One of the things that actually drew me into it was in many places in Europe, you actually decide from, I think even from high school, what you're going to end up studying in college. And that's a very young age to decide the rest of your career. I was really drawn to the American system where you can try out different classes and majors until you explore first and then you find something that resonates with you. So those were some of the factors that influenced my decision.
Fantastic. So you decided almost around the time when you were in high school to move to America.
Yeah.
So any thought process behind what university to go to? Because there are so many universities in the US, and sitting in Albania or just any country outside of the US, you don't have a fair idea as to what university is the best suited for you, right? So walk me through how you went through that process.
Um, Of course, there is the rankings at the time, so that definitely influenced my thinking. I didn't know better how to filter. I would get these questions from American family friends, like, "Do you want to be in a small town or a city?" I didn't know what the difference would be. I decided to move to the US as a senior, so I didn't have enough time to sort of prepare my thinking. But I ended up studying undergrad at Wellesley and master's at MIT. For Wellesley, excuse me, when I visited, I was so inspired by all the women there. It's a women's college. And everyone I would meet was just so impressive. Hillary Clinton went there at the time, especially, it was very exciting to go to a school that she went to. Nowadays, colleges have lost a little bit of that mystique and drawing people in with all the boot camps that are available. But back then, when I was applying, it was like you want to go to the best college possible and to the ones that people you look up to have gone to as well.
Fantastic. And for those who don't know about Wellesley College, like Gerta said, it's a women's only college, and it's one of the best, especially for undergraduate education. So you went to Wellesley College, and what did you study there, and what inspired you to do a master's?
Yeah, as I had predicted, I didn't immediately know what I was going to study. So with some exploration, I landed in the major that most spoke to me. So I did come in wanting to study economics. My parents are both economists. Most people in Albania, it's a small country, so most people have, very useful jobs. And I took some econ classes, and I would go home and my dad would grill me on econ concepts, but he's an expert and I wasn't, as a freshman, first year and sophomore. And I thought, I should just chart my own path because I will never be as good as him. So I was naturally very good at math, so I ended up studying math in college.
Hmm. And what made you choose masters?
What made me choose my master's, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the time, my husband was studying for the GMAT, and I loved math. I had just finished my degree, so I was sort of looking at his math exercises on the GMAT, and so I thought, oh, maybe I should take this too. It looks like I'm kind of good at it. And then, so he was applying to business school. I'm like, oh, maybe I should apply too because I nailed the GMAT. I got a really good score. And then, yeah, in full transparency, I was an MBA applicant, but this program at MIT reached out to me and they said, we want to invite you to apply to this program. It's comparable to an MBA in terms of opportunities and the doors that it opens, but it is 1 year, so less cost and time investment. And it's also a master's of engineering with a heavy sort of management component. So I'm all about efficiency. So I'm like, oh, this is great. I will, minimize time away from working. It's, engineering, which really speaks to my love for STEM fields. Also some management influence as well. So that's how I ended up there.
Fantastic. So could you tell the name of the program so that other people can also look it up and maybe apply?
Yeah, it's very interesting because the program has been rebranded over the years multiple times. When I was there, it was a Master's of Logistics Engineering in Supply Chain Management. I think it's still Supply Chain Management, so SCM, and it's a Master's of Engineering with a very heavy thesis component.
Fantastic. So you go to MIT, you do a 1 year master's, and you might have made some great friends. And I just want to let the audience know that what are the career opportunities for someone who goes to this degree? So I know you are an independent, person. You have your own company, you have your own thing going on. But like for the most part, when people choose this degree and get graduate out of this degree, what do they usually do? Do they enter a typical supply chain management job profile, or what do they do?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, almost half of my classmates went to work at Amazon. It makes sense with the supply chain management aspect of it. And then the rest, it's really a mix. Many went to consulting. I went actually right after MIT into a big biotech company, Sanofi. And of course, you have some other versions like startups and things like that. So it is kind of like an MBA, but with a heavier, weighted more heavily on the like logistics careers.
Mm. We'll get to your entrepreneurship journey, but before that, I just want to touch briefly on your work experience at the biotech company you were mentioning.
Oh yeah, my work experience at the biotech company, I actually came in, was brought in with the mandate to digitize clinical trials. That was the team's mandate. My personal one was I was leading the wearables work stream, basically trying to bring wearables, including apps, into clinical trials with the ultimate goal to bring drugs to market faster and cheaper. As maybe your listeners might know, drug discovery and just bring in clinical trials in general, they take around, on average, 7 years to come into the market. Part of the issue is that we, especially at the time, this was at least 6 years ago when I joined, and part of the problem is the way we measure data. And so we wanted to bring as much digitized solutions there so that we capture more data more objectively and cut down the time of a drug to get to the market.
Hmm.
That was a very exciting work, pretty challenging and also very rewarding. I actually ended up meeting with the FDA. It was very exciting about one of the one of my work streams.
Mm. After this work, after your work with Sanofi, you completely take a different path, right? So what was the thought process behind that? Because 9 to 5 job, you work every single weekday, and you probably don't have much of a time to put into an entrepreneurial journey, right? I mean, uh, what were some of the things that came in your mind, and did you have this thought that is this the right decision for me? Should I quit my job and start something new? Because, like normal people will always think about the monetary aspect, right? And also the future that lies ahead of them if they quit their full-time job. So, what was that process like for you? When did you start thinking about the fact that you should start something on your own?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for doing such a thorough research on my path. I really appreciate it. Yeah, at the time, so it sounds like you noticed that I did something in parallel to my job in biotech. Again, when I was at that job, it was extremely stressful. We were working on very important work with very important diseases from Parkinson's to COPD, lungs diseases, and obesity and things like that. So I needed some sort of outlet, a creativity outlet. And the thing I was very drawn to, and I'm always very drawn to, is tech. So in parallel to that job, my way of just a creativity outlet was building an app on decision making. So I wanted to help people make better decisions in a very methodical way, influenced by behavioral sciences. I worked on this app called Delphi with someone very talented. He was at the time in high school, but together we built this app and launched it and received some positive feedback. But again, it was a side project just as an outlet for me. This actually helped shape my career to some extent and continue. I'm emphasizing my passion for tech. So I was at IBM before the biotech company, and I wanted to go back into tech. I liked how quickly things happen, and the way of thinking is very, facts-based, but also less hierarchy than pharma, very much less regulated than pharma and biotech. So after Sanofi, I actually moved to San Francisco and joined LinkedIn in a product operations team.
Hmm. Uh, Okay, so looks like after Sanofi also you had a brief stint in the corporate world, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. So from corporate to full-time entrepreneur, what was that journey like?
I actually had one more stint uh, being employed. I joined the VC firm in between LinkedIn and then just making the jump into entrepreneurship. So at the VC firm, I was approached to by a friend I had been in conversation with who had raised a pre-seed round for an app that had the mission to solve the loneliness crisis. So big missions are very close to my heart. So I couldn't say no. So I jumped and joined him as a co-founder. That was I learned so much during that journey. It was at the peak of, the economy going down, everything crashing, VCs not uh, handing out as much money as in 2021. So that was the first real sort of dipping my toes in the startup world. After that, I co-founded like a small incubator slash accelerator called Inception Studio, together with three other people. And out of that studio came a company called Ventrilo.ai that my mentor started, and I'm actually currently consulting there for him. I just really enjoyed working with him over on the Inception Studio, and so I like keeping a pulse on generative AI startups and being close to engineers and inspiring teams. So I'm still consulting for that company now.
Hmm. Fantastic. Now coming to negotiations, it's a fast-paced world, and people don't stick to the same company for a long time anymore. I mean, we are living in a changed world, right? In the 1970s, people used to join a company and then stay there for like 30, 35 years, maybe retire and even get pensions. And now we don't even have pensions. It's all 401k and whatnot. And especially in tech world, I think the average number of years that a person sticks to is probably 2 to 3 years. So that makes a job hunt a lot more important, and that makes the offer a lot more important. And a lot of people, especially coming out of grad school, do not know that there is something called negotiation. Like you can negotiate the offer. So tell me, how important is negotiation, and what percentage of pay bumps do people get in an offer through negotiation?
Negotiations are extremely important. There are studies that back this up. Basically, uh, if you don't negotiate even your first offer in your career, that gap will follow you and get bigger and bigger throughout your career. And so you actually want to negotiate even your first offer, where a lot of people think that they don't have any leverage. I'm a recent grad. What could I possibly offer to merit an increase? But you always want to ask. And there's a lot of misconception in negotiations, and I'm happy to dive deeper into that. But one thing to keep in mind is that negotiations are a very common practice in the business world. And so because companies expect you to negotiate, very often the first offer they give you is a little lower, at least a little lower, probably way lower than what they're willing to give you. So they're already factoring in the fact that you will negotiate into the first offer. So by not negotiating, you're actually leaving money on the table, pretty much almost guaranteed.
Hmm. So as an entrepreneur, what do you do, and where do you come in and help people with the negotiation process?
Yeah, so I can actually share how I started this, which is layoffs were left and right. There's a lot of tech layoffs, as I'm sure you're aware.
Get the
And
so how you got this was what I wanted from my previous question is
oh,
how.
okay.
But anyway, now that we are here, yeah, you should tell the listeners how you got here. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so basically the way I got here was with all the tech layoffs happening. I've already had a reputation for being a negotiations expert over the years, and I had like friends and family and their friends and family reach out and ask to hop on a call. I help them make more money and things like that. But I never thought to turn this into an actual company. So as I was wrapping up my work at Inception Studio, I was thinking about my next move. At that time, a lot of people who were laid off from Meta, actually, because Meta had so many layoffs in the past year.
I think they
They
were the first big tech company to lay off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So they, Meta, I mean, yeah, kind of ironically, has a Facebook group of ex-Meta employees who have been laid off.
Yeah, it's like
And
Meta Mates or something it's called,
yeah,
right?
something like, yeah, ex-Meta layoffs and maybe Meta mates.
Mm.
So a friend of mine was also laid off from Meta and is in that group. And she reached out to me and said, hey, there's a lot of people asking for help with negotiations. You know,
But they didn't have an offer then, right? They were just laid off.
they were laid off, but they were starting to look. And what was happening with this economy this year, uh, no one really pays as much as Meta. It's only the other fangs, right? Like it's really very rare if it's not Google, maybe Microsoft, or, the fangs. No one else was paying as high as Meta,
Right.
especially in this economy. So everyone was running around like, how are we gonna get the money we were being paid at Meta? And so a lot of people, as they're looking for jobs, they're posting on this ex-Meta people group and like, I need help with this negotiation, that negotiation. How do I push back, or how do I ask for more money? And my friend who's in that group, she said, hey, I know you're a negotiations expert. I have a lot of people asking there. And my immediate thought was maybe I should do a free Q&A and just invite post there and ask them to join and see how it goes. And so my husband, who's actually an ex-Meta employee, but not laid off, he left a few years ago. He posted there and we had so much demand, like hundreds of people commenting, liking, signing up for the Q&A. And that's actually how this turned into a business. I couldn't really stretch myself enough to support hundreds of people. So I started a course, and then the rest is history. And currently, recently I have expanded to supporting founders. There's so many negotiations that happen through a founder's journey, from your co-founder negotiations, investors, design partners, customers, vendors, and then the exit as well. And then also techies more broadly beyond the job negotiations. I help with how to negotiate with your boss, not only raises and promotions, but also timelines and deadlines and ownership and scope, how to negotiate with your cross-functional partners, and beyond.
Mm. So, Gerta, I want to just simplify this process. So, let's say I am someone who got an offer.
Mhm.
So, could you explain me what will be the first step? So, I reach out to you now that I have an offer and be like, hey, I have been offered this role with this company for this much. And here is my split up. This is my base pay. This is my RSUs. This is my bonus or whatever.
Mhm.
So then what? Like, would you like to simplify this? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, first, this is the persona, right? Someone who has an offer, but someone who just generally wants to become a better negotiator could just take my course. It's offline, it's self-paced. I actually have also a live course, but it's rarer. But yes, for a persona for someone who has an offer, what happens is they come to me, and most often the people actually come to me a little bit late in the process. I would prefer that people come to me much sooner,
Hmm.
before their first negotiation with a recruiter. That's because you're giving away leverage throughout the interview process, especially on the first call with the recruiter, when they ask, how does the range look like, if their range is posted on a job post, or if they have a number they share with you, how does this number sound? you need to be prepared for that conversation. But most of my clients actually do end up coming to me a little later in the process. And so let's say they come to me at the verbal offer stage, right before the verbal offer stage. I help coach them on first, like some best practices. So, hey, when you hop on a call, when you're extended a verbal offer, this is what you should expect. Like they will try to get a sense of if you have other offers or how much you like this current offer. And this is what it's best not to share. And this is what it's best to say and how to make the decisions if you're pressured to make a decision on the spot, what to say and what not to say, and things like that. There are other complexities. So for example, someone might have other offers, or they might prefer, let's say, for example, it's very important for them to have a different title or to have travel expenses covered, or a relocation package. So different people have different priorities. So first, I try to understand their priorities. I don't simply assume that they want more money. It's, a safe assumption, but might have other priorities. And then we shape their negotiation strategy based on their priorities and based on what's happened with the company. So sometimes, I asked them to walk me through what has happened with the company from beginning to end. Who reached out to whom? Were you referred by anyone? How quickly they moved you through the interviews. I can read between the lines for many of those interactions to see, how willing a company could be to negotiate or not. And then the way I help is formulate the strategy, coach them how to prepare for calls. I help them. We draft together some emails to send to the company. But honestly, I'm not going to lie. A lot of my job has turned out to be a little bit of a therapist role. People are, it's a very stressful time right now in this economy, and there's a lot of uncertainty and some self-doubt, but also some like, no, but I know I'm capable. Why are they down leveling me? Why are they paying me less? So I have to also help with the mindset as well.
So to simplify, there is ad hoc coaching, which means that if someone gets an offer or someone is in the process of getting an offer, they can reach out to you and you will sort of formulate a strategy based off of what the communication with the company was with them. And the second is just become a better negotiator. So for that, you can take a course that you offer, and
Yeah.
just to sort of be prepared at any time when you need a job switch, right? Is that
Yeah.
how it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And my courses nowadays, they're beyond just job negotiations. I have a lot of sort of contractors and consultants who want to negotiate their contracts and agreements, people who already have a job who want to negotiate promotions and raises, and anything in between. I actually have a lot of senior people are very high up in different industries, actually lawyers, private equity, and tech. Like I've had some VPs at Amazon as well, coaching them on negotiation. So it is a wide range. There is a lot of transferable principles across everything, but I actually do also enjoy the one-on-one because I get to be there live for the action, and also I get to customize my approaches according to what's happening. So of course there's broader principles, which is like, don't share the first number. But the specificity of it is very exciting to me. It's like, this is how you say it to this particular company. This language resonates more with them because they're a no BS type of company, or like they want things more fluffy because they're more of a softer culture company. So I really enjoyed the customization as well.
Let's now skip to the good part, which is your insights on how negotiation should work. So there are lots of theories on negotiation. Some people say that don't reveal what you're making right now. I think that's a negotiation 101. The other thing people say is, talk on email, because if you are exchanging emails, then there is a visible record of what you spoke. The other thing is that you can think through your emails, because when you're calling, then you have to be instantaneous, so to speak. Um, so between calling, emailing, what are your thoughts? How should one go about it? Let's say I am someone who gave an interview. I'm feeling very confident about it, and I am expecting an offer. So how should I start preparing myself?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and the simple and semi-disappointing answer is that you actually will not have much of a choice, because most recruiters will ask to hop on a call with you. Like 99% of the recruiters will want to negotiate over the phone. So it's not like you have much of a choice, but I do personally prefer, and I think it's a good practice to um, you as the applicant to start the negotiations over email, because it lets you formulate your thinking, craft your words very carefully, yeah, be very thoughtful in the structure of the email. But again, I've only seen one exception in the hundreds of clients I've worked with where the recruiter continued the negotiations over email. Almost all of them will just say, thanks for asking for more. Let's hop on a call. So you will have to prepare for those calls. That's sort of the sort of disappointing answer to it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we see this all the time with car dealerships, right? You go to a car dealership, you want to get a car, you are sort of in the market, but at the same time, you're test driving multiple cars, and you do the test drive, and you are fearing that gruesome conversation that you need to make. And the dealers are doing this day in and day out. They know what to do, they know how to speak, but you are this newbie who doesn't really know how to say no, or how to fall for the deal or not walk away, right? So
Yeah,
when to walk away is a very important thing to know in life in general, not just when it comes to negotiations. So uh,
absolutely.
so I wanted to ask you about walking away from an offer, which
Mhm.
means that, hey, someone is offering you, let's say, $100,000 for a specific role, and you know for a fact that you deserve more,
Mhm.
but at the same time you don't have any competing offers. So when you choose to walk away,
Mhm.
what has been people's experiences, and do you recommend walking away?
That is a very interesting question. In this environment with like I said, the layoffs, the economy, how it is, and the other piece of the layoffs is that not only a lot of people are out of work, but also that creates more demand for the jobs that are out there. And so they're a lot more competitive. I haven't had that many people walk away from offers. Maybe it is a biased group because I coach them through how to get an offer that they end up loving. But yes, that's actually a very important thing to think about. So before formulating your negotiation strategy, I ask people, as I mentioned, to think about their priorities. It's not always cash. Like I said, it could be title, relocation, work from home, things like that. So first you think about your priorities. And you also think about your non-negotiables. So I did have a recent client who had to decline an incredible offer at, I think it was a total comp of above 300K, where she needed to work remotely and they wouldn't budge on that. And so she walked away. So we work together to formulate your non-negotiables and your priorities in order of importance. And it's also important to think about what your other options are. Right now, it's hard to have other offers, but I do offer a tip, which is get another offer, even if it's not exciting. It doesn't have to be a job that you would necessarily take, but just having another offer and telling that to the company you are negotiating with, it does open up some new mechanisms on their end. So those are some initial thoughts on that.
Mm. And someone who has multiple offers, let's say you got an offer, you are really excited about it, but at the same time, like you said, you have multiple offers. Do companies, like, how do companies believe that you have multiple offers? Do they ask you to share the numbers? Do they ask you to share the offer letters? And can you be private about it? So,
That is such a great question, and it actually covers some of the things I recommend. And the main one is never lie about having another offer. Well, first, it's unethical, but second, recruiters, do this day in and day out, just like you said, for years and decades. And there are certain micro expressions that we have that give away whether we actually do have another offer or not, regardless of how good of a liar one could be, or
What
good of
if everything is over email? Then
um that's a great question. And here's what I'm going to share. When you have another offer, one is you get more confident. And it's a very subtle thing, right? Like maybe even over email, maybe your email is more direct, maybe shorter. It's hard to sort of really disaggregate how that comes through. The other piece is you're under a little bit more time pressure because now you have another offer. You don't want that offer to explode the timeline. And so you put pressure on this company, like, hey, I have another offer. I need to make a decision soon. You can't really fake these things, even over email. But like I said, recruiters, 99% of them will not negotiate with you over email. You will hop on a call. And so it's really hard to fake having another offer. And then remind me the second part of your question.
yeah, I mean, if you say, or if you are confidently saying that you have multiple offers, do
Mhm.
companies ask for the
Ask
offer
for yeah.
letter and the
Yeah.
numbers? Is it ethical? Is it according to the law for them to
Yeah,
do
that's
that?
a good that's a great question. So some companies will ask for it, and what I recommend is not sharing it. Well, first you want to protect the other company's privacy. Sometimes they have certain rules about sharing the offer letter and confidentiality and things like that. But it also doesn't benefit you to share the other company's offer, because that in negotiations we call that leverage. So by your main company not knowing what the other offer looks like, they might give you more than what that other company is giving you. So company A and company A not knowing what the company B offer looks like might give you more money than company B, rather than if you share with them what that offer is. Another interesting point is that company B's offer might be lower, and you can still use that as leverage by saying, I have another offer. Is there any room in your budget to go up in compensation? They might still go up even though the other offer is lower than what company A has already offered.
That brings me to a very interesting topic, which is the layoffs. So I'll tell you how the offers are also related to the layoffs. Again, I don't know how true this is, but what I've heard is that when it is usually last in, first out.
Mhm.
So let's say someone got a very crazy offer in 2022. They were getting paid like 400K, 500K, which is the top level of uh, what that particular job role gets gets as an offer.
Mhm.
And then due to some microeconomic situation, there is a layoff. Then it's usually the top paid people who go out. So uh, even though negotiation is great, um, is there some secret sauce to know when to stop negotiating? Because
Mm.
you can keep going higher and higher, and you always look at these numbers on levels.fyi or blind, which will say that, hey, for the same role I got like 100K more or 50K more or whatever, right? So when do you know your worth, and what is that secret sauce to know when to stop negotiating?
Yeah. So I'm taking notes because I think you covered at least three points I want to touch on. So one is how to know when to stop negotiating. You will typically hear the company say something like, hey, this is our best and final offer. something like, we really want you to join us, but we cannot give any more beyond this. So we would be sad to lose you, but this is our best offer. So that's when you hear those magical words, that's how you know you've reached the end. If you hear things that, the hiring manager's on vacation or the HR manager's on vacation, so I don't want to bother them. Like if the recruiter says something like that, I don't want to bother them to approve your increase. That is not the end of the negotiation. That's just an inconvenience, and that's just a pressure tactic to get you to accept and move on.
Or the other thing is, if you want to go higher, we need VP approval or something, right? That's another
Yes,
thing that.
and that's totally fine. Why not get the VP approval
Yeah.
for more money, right? Like for them, it's probably just a quick signature. And again, especially if it's a big company, but even medium size, they're used to people negotiating or moving around or having multiple offers. For you, this is a huge event in your life, but for them, this is literally their job, for recruiters and HR managers. So it's okay to quote unquote inconvenience leadership with one quick signature for more money. Again, this ties into what I mentioned at the beginning, which is your compensation is cumulative over your career, and maybe like $2,000-$5,000 in your first job more can compound whether you invested better or when you get a promotion. Now it's on top of that, like 10% promotion or 17 or 20%, 30%, it's on top of that. When you find a new job, you have a benchmark of the salary you had before. So it really compounds over your career, even as little as a few thousands of dollars. So that's to sort of close the loop on when to know how to stop. You also touched on, well, first, what was it, like
Yeah, I can repeat. So what I was
Yeah,
trying to say is that, sometimes if you get paid extremely high, you're most probably the last one to go out when there is a layoff. Is that something that you notice, or is that true?
I think of the way I think about this is like, think of the sort of the reverse of this of this logic. So I think excuse me, the implication of what you're saying, and I've been asked this before, the implication is don't ask for too much because you'll be the first to get fired. I don't like this thinking. You should get as much of the money that's available to you on the table and worry about getting fired later. That's because, well, first, that money can cover you if you're in a period of layoffs. And second, it like whatever level you're at, it will determine the level most likely. Of course, not in times of recession, there's always edge cases, but in a normal situation, the money you're making now, it will follow you around. So let's say you go to a new job, you say like, I was making more at the previous company, can you match it? So it doesn't make sense to hold off on not taking the money that's right in front of you on the table, just because hypothetically they could fire you first when they do, or have you leave first if they're doing layoffs. And the other piece I want to emphasize, and again, I'm talking about sort of white collar jobs here. I can't speak to retail or government. I meant to say this disclaimer sooner, but for especially in tech or tech adjacent fields and lawyers and things like that, you are not being hired because you're not negotiating or because you're willing to take the lowest salary. You're being hired for your skills, and you're being hired for how good of a fit you are with the team, how much people like you. Also, if they have an immediate need for someone to fill this role, there's so many other factors why they hire you as opposed to you taking the lowest salary. This is not the case for jobs that require, primarily a higher education, I would say. Yeah.
That is an excellent point. And no matter how much you negotiate, we all must understand that it is still a very, very tiny fraction of the company's profits. It's a very tiny fraction of what the company is making. And like you rightly said, if two people are, in consideration for a position, it's usually the best one who gets the job and not someone who is willing to take a pay cut or the lowest salary. So
Yep.
lovely breakdown there. Gerta, before we end this podcast, would love to know your future plans. And you mentioned how this this whole business, how it took off when there were a lot of layoffs, right? So once the economy gets better and there is not as many layoffs, do you fear your business? Like, how is your what is your sort of 1 year or 2 year plan? How does that look like?
Yeah, I'd like to think I'm not capitalizing on people being in layoffs and the economy being
Yeah.
in the state that it is. What I do is I help people find the confidence and find the tools to advocate for themselves and get what they want and what they deserve. And this will always be a need because of things like imposter syndrome, or simply it's a new type of education to learn how to negotiate. It's one of the core, in my opinion, business skills one should have. We're constantly negotiating, even in at home, like with our partners or parents or kids, like who does what chore and things like that. So that's a skill I think everyone should have in their back pocket. For that reason, I have so many free resources, and I've helped many people for free. It's my Instagram, my website. I hope to post on LinkedIn one of these days. I'm also writing a book on negotiations as well. And then in terms of my 1 to 2 year plan, I would love to get to a point where I want to like coach teams on how to negotiate contracts and coach more leaders. I already do coach a lot of high visibility leaders, but even more at scale would be very rewarding for me, because those types of skills tend to help the people around them and under them as well.
Fantastic. And to everybody who thinks or who is shy of negotiating, or who has an imposter syndrome, even people at the top negotiate, right? Business
Yeah,
deals are made with a lot of negotiation. Acquisitions are made by a lot of negotiations and all of that. So there is nothing wrong in negotiating, and it's important to realize one's worth and what one brings to the table and how fit they are with the team, and how they will make an impact in the company with their skills. So, Gerta, it was amazing having you on the show and
thank
lovely
you.
breakdown. I have linked all your resources in the show notes so that people can go check them out and also avail your course. So yeah,
Great.
it was lovely
Well,
having you on the show.
likewise, and Bella, let me share one more small thing. The biggest misconception around negotiations is that it's combative. It's actually the opposite. A good negotiation is a very collaborative process where we try to find ways in which I get what I want and you get what you want. So a company might be willing to throw more money at you if you start earlier, or if you say yes to this offer. So it's not a win-lose situation or a zero-sum game. A beautiful negotiation is actually a win-win process. So I would actually urge people to keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the difference between negotiation and bargaining or haggling, right? It needs to come with a certain sense of civility and dignity. And if that happens, then it's a win-win for both people. So yeah,
Exactly.
you beautifully
That's what
said.
I'm hoping for people to achieve as well.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So, Geta, thank you so much for breaking all of that down. And it was lovely having you on the show. And
Thank you so much, Farah.
I've linked all your resources in the show notes so that people can
Thank
go
you. I
check it out.
appreciate it. Yeah. Have a great day.
Bye.